more than anything, I go into protective mode. Like, I'm never going to trust someone who adored my family setup so much that they worked their ass to come between it. Of course, with the help of him, but still.
Our children are perfectly fine.
Like I said, for me, knowing that they are around someone who has said such nasty and vile things about their mother and about
all those babysitters that you had, 11 babysitters
who said multiple things about their father. To see how he defends her, he's bringing up something directly at me when I'm talking about a person who has for years, as he.
Martell Holt arrived in the city. She carried a silent promise in her heart. She would no longer live in the pain of the past, but in the dreams of her future. With her children by her side, determination in her eyes, and quiet peace in her heart, she knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. But this time, she wasn't running away. She was moving toward something new. As she stepped into her new home in Atlanta, she turned back for a moment. Huntsville, the city that once held her love, career, and heartbreak, was now behind her. For Melody, Atlanta wasn't just a new city. It was a new beginning. She promised herself that no one would ever define her again. She was no longer Martell's wife, but Melody Shari, a mother, a businesswoman, and a living example of how broken people can become whole again. In this new city, she set small goals for herself, a good school for her children, a strong foundation for her business, and a peaceful life away from chaos. But the past has a way of echoing. Sometimes in the stillness of night or in a sudden flash of memory, Martell's face would reappear, a reminder that even new beginnings carry old shadows. Huntsville had once called them a power couple, but now it was a graveyard of broken promises. Melody remembered the moment she first decided to leave. "I heard God's voice," she once said, "and he told me to go." That day she chose freedom. But freedom wasn't easy for either of them. For Martell, the separation wasn't just a failed marriage. It was a blow to his pride and career. The man who once saw himself as a symbol of success was now painted as the villain. Melody knew that this battle wasn't just about surviving. It was about redefining herself as a woman, a mother, and a human being. Each day she rebuilt her life, taking the kids to school, working on her business, coming home tired but determined. Yet every time a new legal notice from Martell arrived, she felt the weight of the past all over again. One quiet afternoon in the park, as her children laughed under the warm sun, she received a message, a custody review notice. Her hands trembled for a moment, but when she looked at her children, courage filled her heart. "I won't break," she whispered to herself. Back home, Aldi. Melody made tea, sat at her table, and stared at her lawyer's papers. "I will face this," she decided. That night, she wrote in her diary, "I lost everything and found myself. Maybe this is my new beginning with the old shadows." Months passed. Life in Atlanta brought both peace and loneliness. The media still followed her every move, posting her pictures, rehashing old clips, commenting on her life. It seemed the world wasn't ready to let her story fade. But Melody was determined to write a new one. At a networking event, she met Sabria James, a strong businesswoman who had once faced her own share of betrayal. "Life gives us two choices," Sabria told her. "Stay trapped in the past or build a new palace from its ruins." The words struck deep. Melody realized it was time to stop pretending to be weak. Meanwhile, Martell's anger still burned. Watching Melody's growing success stirred jealousy and regret. In interviews, he painted himself as a victim, claiming Melody was keeping him from his kids. Public opinion divided. Some blamed her, others defended her. Melody stayed silent. "Some wars," she often said, "are won through silence." But Martell mistook that silence for surrender and filed for custody again. When Melody's lawyer, Angela Mason, handed her the papers, disappointment flickered across her face. "I just want peace," she said. Angela replied softly, "Some men can't handle a woman's freedom. They see it as their defeat." Those words echoed in Melody's heart. On the day of court, cameras flashed as Melody walked into the Atlanta County Courthouse. Calm, but resolute. "I will fight for my truth," she told herself, inside. Her lawyer argued that the children were happy, safe, and thriving in Atlanta. Martell's lawyer claimed she was keeping them from him. The judge asked both sides to speak respectfully. There was no verdict that day, but Melody knew the real judgment was already written, not in papers, but in her strength. When the media rushed toward her outside, she said nothing. Her silence spoke louder than any statement. That night, Sabria visited her. Sitting together in quiet reflection, Melody whispered, "Sometimes winning isn't about victory, it's about intention." Sabria smiled. "And your intentions are pure, Melody. You're rewriting your story." As Melody looked out at the lights of Atlanta, she realized the darkness she once feared was no longer around her. It was behind her. "This darkness is my test," she said softly, "but I'll find my light in it." Over time, she rebuilt her business, 7th Avenue Beauty, and founded the Rebuild Project K, a program helping women recover from loss and betrayal. "I'm not rebuilding my life," she said in interviews, "I'm recreating it." The phrase became her truth. Media outlets praised her growth, and she was soon named one of Essence magazine's most influential women of the South. "I haven't come to erase my past," she told them. "I've come to learn from it." Meanwhile, Martell began to change too. Watching Melody's strength made him reflect on his own life. He stopped drinking, focused on his kids, and tried to grow. In an interview, he finally admitted, "I didn't understand myself without Melody. I now see her strength came from faith and self-belief." The words went viral, marking a new chapter for him as well. When Melody learned that Martell had anonymously donated to her foundation, she simply smiled and said, "Sometimes people change when they understand what they've lost." At a charity event, months later, they met again. No anger, no blame, just mutual respect. "I'm glad you found your light," Martell said. "Maybe you did too," Melody replied. Their silence said the rest. Years later, Melody stood on stage at the annual Rebuild Project K event, now a national movement. Looking at hundreds of women, she said, "I'm not the Melody who lived in someone's shadow. I'm the Melody who rose from her own ashes. I changed my story, now it's time for you to change yours. If you let others write your story, they'll always paint you in the wrong colors." The crowd stood in tears and applause. Even Martell was there, watching quietly, peace finally softening his face. "Some people," he told a friend, "don't come to stay. They come to show us who we are." A few months later, Melody was honored internationally at the Women of Impact Global Awards. Her speech moved millions. "I am the woman you once saw broken. But today I stand smiling for every woman still searching for her light. Your past doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful. If I can rise again, so can you." By then, Martell had become a better father and a humbler man. When his daughter said, "Dad, you and Mom both changed," he smiled because it was true. Their story had gone beyond heartbreak. It had become a message that truth doesn't die. It just takes time to shine. And for anyone reading their story, the message was clear. Your pain is not your ending. It's the beginning of your rise. You are the hero of your own story. Months after receiving the Women of Impact Award, Melody's life continued to blossom in ways she had once only dreamed of. Her foundation, Rebuild Project K, was thriving across the nation, opening new centers in cities like Chicago, Houston, and New York. Women from all walks of life, single mothers, survivors, dreamers, and fighters, began to see Melody not just as a celebrity, but as a sister who understood their pain and turned it into purpose. Every week she would host workshops titled Rise Again, where she taught that healing wasn't about forgetting the past, but about finding power in it. Despite her growing fame, Melody kept her life grounded. Her mornings still began with dropping the kids off at school, making breakfast, and humming gospel songs in the kitchen. She often said, "My success means nothing if my children don't feel peace at home." And that peace was finally taking root. Her children had adjusted well to Atlanta, laughing more, sleeping better, and embracing the new chapter just like their mother. Martell, too, was finding his footing. He had started mentoring young men through a community program in Huntsville, helping them learn from his mistakes. Though he rarely spoke about the past publicly, his actions showed a quiet transformation. The bitterness that once clouded him was replaced by maturity. Sometimes when he talked about fatherhood, he would say, "My children are my mirror. They reflect who I am becoming." One day, Melody received a call from a major streaming network. They wanted to produce a documentary about her journey. Not the drama, not the scandal, but the rebirth. At first she hesitated. The idea of letting cameras back into her life felt risky.